Welcome to a 1v1 verse between PaulBellow and Madcraft. Here we have PaulBellow in blue, starting with Ampots. And here we have Cloakbots for Madcraft. And let's see, PaulBellow requested this replay. A yet small little tip is that you can queue up buildings before you start a game. That way you can build the Ampbot factory immediately and then start building mexes. It looks like he's gonna go for a pretty economic start with a constructor first and mexes on top of that. And his enemy is also doing a similar start. And he has his commander on high priority, but that means his mexes are gonna be prioritized over his factory production. And he's gonna make a picket there, that's okay defense. And some ducks. Ducks are decent, pretty good. He doesn't know he's against cloakbots yet, but ducks are pretty good overall against glaives. So ducks is something you can rely on against cloakbots. They generally beat glaives for cost, especially in higher numbers. At low numbers it can be a little bit tricky because sometimes they like to overshoot the ducks. And that means that they're gonna miss, especially when a single glaive is running towards the duck. The duck is quite likely to lob its missile above the glaive and miss it. But in higher numbers that doesn't really matter, since ducks outrange the glaives. And yeah, he's being pretty defensive here, pretty careful, building a Lotus turret first. And he barely has any radar, his commander has radar on top of here, but otherwise he doesn't see anything. And considering the enemy sending some glaives here, that might be a good choice. You start with a bit of energy, like I guess you're moving out with your own build power now, so building energy after that is hard. Or you're gonna build a lot of build power here, I see. So 5 glaives against 2 ducks and Lotus turret, I think they should win, but the ducks aren't reacting. They should preferably be kiting here in this situation, but they're not kiting. And it looks like they're barely gonna win. That was kinda close. Yeah. Still, only one lost duck for PaulBellow. But generally I recommend when that happens to have your ducks on fight, so they can if they're on attack move, they will kite the enemy glaives, and the glaives will have to chase down them. And especially in range of a Lotus turret, means that you're likely to help the Lotus turret a lot if you just let the ducks kite against the glaives. Let's see here, 1 miss for the duck, a hit, and yeah, 1 by 1 there because it missed the first shot, and it missed again. Why do they really tend to miss their first shot? That's interesting. Yeah. And here comes a duck against a Lotus turret that just got built, but yeah, the Lotus turret is gonna finish the duck. Yeah. So yeah, at this point, PaulBellow's economy is pretty balanced, that's good. Generally you want to have some more energy production than metal production. So, because there are, like, if you want to repair something or radars, for example, if you're using them, they drain a little bit of energy. So having some more energy than metal production is good. And he's also having his these on high priority, which is good. This means he's gonna be prioritizing his expansion. Although at this point he's only making energy here. Yeah. And that duck killed 2 glaives, so yeah, they made pretty good cost there. Stardust at this position is pretty good. Using the height advantage, you get some extra range when shooting down with the Stardust. So that's a pretty good position. It looks like PaulBellow is gonna be pretty defensive. Personally, if I play against Cloakbots as Ampots, I prefer to just use ducks. Ducks are pretty reliable against glaives. If you set them on fight move or attack move, yeah, they're gonna do fine against glaives. Like, I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't rely so much on Stardust, because Stardust, yeah, also this far back as well. Like here, they're only gonna protect until you are basically losing the game, or only against fast raiders, basically. Yeah. So at this point, you could be expanding. You're expanding a bit. Although you could try building a radar here, for example, would be good. So you know if the enemy is sending units here, that would be pretty good. Also, like you're building a lot of energy here. I guess if you want to go for overdrive, but it's a bit early to go for overdrive. So yeah, I would have liked to advance to these mixes faster. Now with the combination of reclaiming these rocks in the middle, he's almost accessing. Like having just one caretaker here is a bit, yeah, you need a bit more, like one more would be good. Oh, and he's starting to make a stinger, a lone stinger. That feels a bit excessive. Like if this would have been a Lotus turret, it would have been up by now. But yeah, like trying to expand with stingers first without any Lotus turret, it's not something I recommend. If that stinger had, if that Lotus turret have gone up, you could have probably killed these 3 glaives, or at least maybe retreated to this Lotus turret if you had reacted to that. Yeah. Here you're making a little engagement. Yeah, this is a lot of defense. Like the commander is here, there's a few Ronins and Lotus turret as well as a Stardust. So this is a lot of defense. And archers, they're kind of fragile. They're kind of glass cannons. They're kind of fast riot raiders. So sending them into a Stardust is a pretty bad idea. So yeah, you basically only kill one glaive there, so not much value. So we can see here that what else is going on. Yeah, basically you're only donating reclaim here, so now the enemy has like 400 reclaim here that they can reclaim, while you did basically no damage. So being able to judge how it's gonna go with different units is a skill you can. It takes time and effort. Like you need experience to know that archers are pretty bad against a Stardust and reacting in time to retreat, for example. And your opponent is stalling a bit here. So yeah, they have expanded about, let's see, about the same. Yeah, you were ahead a bit, but he's getting back now. And now the enemy is accessing a bit, so that's good for you. And at this point, yeah, you should be expanding here. Like, you should have scouted this and expanded here earlier, I think you could. Instead, you're building a lot of energy. I'm not sure, maybe you're going for overdrive. Yeah, you have quite a lot of metal. Like, how much overdrive do you get from these mixes? Yeah, like you're getting... yeah, you're overdrawing 2 energy per max. That's not much extra income. That's 40% extra income. So in total, you get like, yeah, like 1 extra mix from this, from all this energy that you have extra. So yeah, having taken like these 3 mexes would have been much more favorable than building all these solar collectors here. And you could have already been there with a few Lotus turrets as well. And again, you're running with ducks and archers into Stardust. That's a bad idea. Boys, on the other hand, are really good against Stardust. They're gonna slow the Stardust, and even if the Stardust is shooting at its max range, it's not gonna do a lot of damage when it's slow, since you half the damage of the Stardust, half the DPS. And here you have a Jin. I'm not entirely sure why you would need a Jin this early. I guess there are some quite slow units like bulkheads and boys, they're kind of slow. But yeah, this map isn't big, so yeah. Not really necessary to build a 750 cost Jin in this position. Also, you have these mixes that you can take, and these mixes as well. And at this point, I'm a little unsure what you're trying to achieve with your attacks. Like you're killing a few mexes here, yeah. but on the other hand, Ronins are a pretty decent unit against uh, against Amphibots in general, because uh, both both archers and ducks are kinda slow, with only like 90 elmo per second, compared to like other raiders that are 115 elmos per second. So they can kite for a pretty long while before the enemy units reach them. Like an archer, they have the same speed as an archer, so they're gonna kite forever. And a duck, yeah, they can kite a duck for quite a while before the duck catches up. And especially if you have some defense, it means that you can't catch up to the Ronin before the Ronin's gonna be in range of its defenses. So yeah, having expanded here and made a few Lotus turrets would have been good. Yeah. This army composition is kind of strong. You're sending a Jin a bit far forward here, that's not too good. 750 metal. Yeah. And you also scout this position, like just having a few ducks here would have made it taking this area a lot harder. Now you're moving forward, the bulkheads, you should probably set them on attack move as well. Like sometimes you might want to move up into enemy like this, but now you're just running into raiders and Ronins, and yeah, that's just a bad situation from bulkheads. Also, when you're in the water, you get some extra repair rate from being in the water as amphibians. So yeah, moving up this close with bulkheads and there means that you can't fire, and the enemy can just overrun them and shoot them down with Ronins. So yeah, you get the +7 regen rate in the water, and boy, they have a lot. Oh boy, they have a lot of health regen, like 26 or 27 HP regen. And you're trying to kill the commander there. Ah, there was a close call. You almost got a commander. It was an upgraded commander, so getting it would have been nice. But still, you're losing too many units. But finally, you're expanding here. But you could also be expanding here and here. While you're also denying the expansion of the enemy here. Looks like this single blade might get this boy. So yeah, just having a few ducks here would have done the same work as this boy, but this boy paid off. So yeah. Now you're pushing up a bit. It still feels like, yeah, you're pushing back the enemy. I guess you're trading pretty evenly. Like, yeah. With some better micro, you wouldn't lose your boys here, but you would have your scallops ready, and you would pull back the boys as they're getting low on health, or the enemy is about to surround them with Reavers and Ronins. Like at this point, to send the units forward in 2 small increments, like you should have a bigger army, you're losing your army piecemeal. If we look at the value kill here, you can see that actually you have been losing quite a lot more than enemy. So yeah, and the enemy has also been ahead in metal production. They have been going for a bit of overdrive, which, you're still even on overdrive, I guess. But yeah, at this point you're getting pretty far behind from losing so many units here. Like I said, you're pushing the enemy back, but you're not really doing cost-effective damage. Like your ducks are running forward and dying to Ronins and Lotus turrets, while your boys are, yeah, they're also running too far forward and dying to the Ronins without going back and repairing. Like something you could consider in this situation when facing off Ronins is to set a retreat field here next to the caretaker and then set them on like 30 or 60% retreat rate. That's pretty good. Because then they're gonna go back when they're low in health, and they're gonna go through the water and start regenning and go back to the caretaker and regen back. So yeah, then you're gonna keep them and don't lose them as easily, and barely without, like, it only takes a few clicks to set up a retreat field and then a retreat zone, like a retreat zone and then the retreat threshold. Yeah. And the enemy is trying to be a little bit sneaky with 4 glaives here, but you react in time. Yeah, one thing as well is that the enemy moves into the water, they're gonna be pretty severely slowed by the water. Like this water is 13 deep, and yeah, that's gonna slow down the enemy quite a lot. Well, it doesn't slow down amphipods, so that's pretty good for you as well. Now the enemy has invested a lot into this commander. Personally, what kind of commander is this? It's a heavy particle beam. Personally, I don't really like them. They don't have that much range, and they have slow reload, so I don't really like them. But the enemy also has a stinger here that's gonna make your life even more troublesome. Like, how are you gonna attack into a stinger with boys? And the upgraded commander, you're just gonna lose units one by one, and you keep losing units one by one. You need to consider, like... Yeah, I'm not sure what your game plan is here, like your... Yeah. Still haven't taken this mix, it's a bit slow, yeah. Also consider a Grizzly. A Grizzly is actually really good against amphipods. Like, you only need a bit of protection from like scallops, ducks, or archers. And yeah, your Grizzly can go in for days. It's only gonna take a little bit of damage from slings and a little bit of damage from Ronins maybe sometimes, and you can shoot down a stinger in just 2 shots from the stinger, from the Grizzly. So that's a great way to advance and keep your units. Especially in this situation when you have so much economy, like having about 30 or 40 economy, that means you can reliably push out Grizzlies without being defenseless while you're building them. And again, you're gonna try to go for the commander, but this is still like 2000 more metal loss without doing barely any damage. So yeah, you have to be careful how you approach stingers in general. So yeah, at this point look at this. This is, your attacks hasn't been effective enough, and you have also been getting behind in economy. Like, the enemy's overgrind are starting to pay off a little bit, but yeah, it hasn't been a big factor yet. It has mostly been that the enemy have had more mexes and reclaimed more as well. That's a lot of reclaim. Like, all these attacks that you've been sending to the enemy has just reclaimed it, and you are just getting far behind from all this reclaim and some extra mexes that the enemy has. I guess the biggest difference would be the reclaim here. Like, not the mexes, you have been pretty even on mexes. But yeah, you have been losing your army, and then the enemy has basically reclaimed your army. Like, I don't see the point of using a Jin in this situation. What is walking time for a scallop? Maybe 30 seconds going there. It doesn't make a big difference on a small map like this. Like, for example, it could be tricky if you have like 2, then you could be like here, and you advance here with the Jin, and suddenly you have a big army here, and then you see these defenses here, and then you say, oh, I'm just gonna teleport to this side. That could be like a use of Yin on a map like this, like changing fronts quicker. But is it worth 750 metal or 1000? Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth that. But using it just to reduce the walking time a bit, yeah, not really worth it. Yeah, and you're finally doing some work here, but yeah. You're gonna run into the stinger again and face off against some glaives, which means you're gonna be, your units on just attack move is just gonna be kiting back and forth here and staying in range of the stinger. So yeah, despite that, that's not gonna be a cost-effective attack. like you're trying to push the enemy all over on all sides, but you're still not doing enough value, I'd say. This is one of your best attacks so far, I'd say. And that's mostly because the enemy has stopped production of units and is trying to make it down there. Its stream of units will have, like Ronins and Glaze would have stopped this army pretty early. Also, yeah, making... You have some defense there, 2 Stardust, decent defense, but although some Ronins and Slings could easily just kill them without any losses. So, yeah, you can make a factory here, but personally I would probably just build it here. And you're gonna lose your Jin again, running into the enemy base, yeah. And you need to practice a bit. If you enable some custom options, you can set selection priorities. Then you could, for example, set the Jin on lower selection priority, on lower selection rank. For example, Khans by default has a lower construction selection rank, but you have to enable this button in the UI. I think, yeah, you can see it here. You should search for selection buttons. No. Is it? Oh, rank. Is it rank? Selection rank. Yeah, I think it is. Let's see here. So you can go into settings and then interface, and where do we have it now again? Let's see here. No, it's not selection. Command visibility. Here we have them. So settings, interface, command visibility. Here you can select like maybe not all of these buttons are necessary. Oh wait. Oh, this is not that one. It was... Where was it now again? Was it commands? Oh, it was commands. Base settings, interface, commands. Yeah, here's the extra like basic state. Here you can change like gunships, states, and yeah. Well, basically, where do you have the selection rank? Yeah, you have it all the way down here. Selection rank. There you go. Can be pretty useful, because then you can set the Jin on a different selection rank, so you don't accidentally selecting while trying to advance. Like, yeah, in fact, like a caretaker by default have a selection rank of 1, and a Khan has a selection rank of 2. So if you draw a line, you draw like this, you don't get the Khan. And you could do the same for the Jin, so you don't accidentally send it forward. So that's a pretty good way to avoid selecting the Jin accidentally. Yeah, but as you can see, the enemy has almost twice the value here. And yeah, you're trading decently here with these tanks, but still, it's not enough to have a comeback. There's also an attrition with it, which can be pretty useful in such situation. Personally, I don't like to use it, but yeah, it can be pretty useful as well. Like the enemy just need, in order for them to win, they just need to pull through with this down to now. You have barely any defense, and you stop making units. Huh? And you still haven't taken this max. That's a miss. So, yeah. You're making some headway, but you're kind of losing your units a bit to this sniper and the slings. So yeah, slowly you're losing your units to that. Yeah, here it looks like you have decent trades. In the end, they were the tanks. But yeah, the enemy still had a much larger army than you. So the tank switch was probably a good idea in this situation. Although I think you could have just switched to Grizzly and been fine. Like Grizzly does well against Dantes as well, they can skirmish them and kite them. So basically, if you're careful, or just have the Grizzly on fight command, or I mean attack move, it's just gonna keep kiting the Dante and it's never gonna die to Dante. Unless the enemy sneak in, like have a cloak and gets close to the Dante or something like that. But yeah, personally I like amphibs because you can just spam Grizzly in almost any late game situation. They're a really good late game unit, like they can beat most Striders. Like they're fine, especially against, like if the Dante isn't cloaked or anything, you can easily just keep kiting it. The Scorpion can be a bit tricky. The Scorpion can like stun with its attack, and it can stun the Grizzly, and then it can lock down a Grizzly and kill it if you only have one. But if you have two, and some extra units, you might kill the Scorpion. So yeah. And yeah, ultimatums they die really fast if all the Grizzlies are ready to fire. If ultimatum fires at 1, it's gonna die before it can. If all the Grizzlies have reloaded, it's gonna die before it can fire the next shot. So it's barely gonna make cost. Yeah, but as I said, I'd suggest look into your attacks. Maybe you should activate the, what do you call it, the attrition widget. I think, can you search for it? Attrition. I'm not sure, but there should be some setting like that. Units, stats, extras. I can't really find it here. Anyway, so yeah, you were kind of you were kind of even in the early game, but then you started attacking and losing your units. So the enemy got ahead and and you attacked into their territory, and then the enemy started to reclaim all your units. In the end, the enemy reclaimed 10,000 metal. And that is basically why the enemy won. You attacked and didn't make cost, and then the enemy reclaimed your units. You have to be more careful with your unit composition and how you attack, especially if you're attacking into defenses. Like this Stinger made a lot of cost, because you would just make an attack move, and your units would skirmish against other units like Ronins and Glaives, and then they're just gonna die to the Stinger one by one. So yeah, you have to be more careful how you engage into defenses. So yeah, that was all. Good luck and have fun.